Hi, this is Alessandrina from Dexter and Alessandrina, and today I'm going to talk about how to change your thoughts. And this is part of the video series, Tools for an Empowered Life, or Tools for Self-Empowerment. And I hope that you enjoy it. It's very, very useful to change the way that we think and the thoughts that we have, especially if those thoughts are not supportive of living a life of joy, of inner peace, of harmony, of balance, of healthy and conscious relationships. So the core of changing our thoughts, the first thing is there's a lot of mainstream kind of polarized views about thoughts that are actually leading to suppression. And some people are following this advice, and I personally don't recommend it. It just comes, in my personal understanding, from a lack of comprehensive understanding about the implications of actually canceling our thoughts, or distracting away from them, or only focusing on the positive. And a lot of people are doing that, not realizing that they're actually suppressing the energy of their thoughts, of the negative thoughts that they have, and therefore they remain in the subconscious mind, unresolved, and they continue to have an influence because we're only in our conscious mind 5% of the time, and therefore the 95% of the rest of the time during the day, we are operating from programs. And if we have the energy from those thoughts, those unresolved thoughts and emotions in our system, then that is what is going to be influencing our reactions, the way that we interact with others, what we choose to do from moment to moment, or decide to do from moment to moment. And so that process of canceling, only focusing on the positive, not paying attention to the negative thoughts, it's not a comprehensive process of actually effectively and permanently clearing our negative thoughts. So the first step, other than not suppressing and not only focusing on the positive, which is not a permanent solution to the transcendence of negative thoughts, it's to really understand that we are not our thoughts. And so a lot of the thoughts that we have, they either come from our past life, or they come from conditioning in childhood, or they come from the collective consciousness. So in the same way that you have a Wi-Fi network, maybe in your home or at your office, or you've been to places that have a Wi-Fi network, and information travels through this Wi-Fi network. The same is true of our thoughts. So, for instance, you may have heard of people who can read thoughts, and I have met people like that who can, read the mind of other people, and they're very quiet, they're silent, and so they can feel the vibrations, and they can translate the vibrations and the energy of those thoughts. And so all of that is to say that, yes, you can read the mind of other people, you can read the thoughts of other people, and oftentimes you're doing it without knowing that you're doing it. So you're essentially picking up on other people's thoughts and fears and beliefs, and that starts to emerge in your consciousness. And when it's not the people around you, or just wherever you are in public, it's the thoughts, the unresolved thoughts and beliefs and fears from childhood that you downloaded as programs from the time that you were in the womb all the way to the age of 7, sometimes even 9. When only your first energy center was open, so the root chakra, and all the information was just being recorded in your system without you being aware of it. So those are recorded, and they can be re-referenced until we become aware of them. And if they don't serve us, if we have beliefs about ourselves or about life or others or relationship that don't serve us, we can let them go once we become aware of them, and then we can enjoy our lives more and be more self-sovereign in our process of intention and creating our own reality. So if we're picking up on information, on thoughts from other people, from our past lives, from childhood, our conditioning, then we can first of all, that gives us some compassion, some patience, and it can help us clear our judgments when we have negative thoughts. So if we have a negative thought and we judge it, or we're afraid of it, we don't like it, we don't like having that thought because it is contrary to our self-image. For instance, if we're having a violent thought or a thought that, you know, is not a thought that is in alignment with our self-image in this lifetime, then we can become very ungrounded by that, very reactive. We can imagine ourselves being abandoned by other people emotionally, rejected, criticized, punished, you know, in different ways, judged. And so when that happens, we go through that process subconsciously and we become afraid of our thoughts and we reject them. And when we reject them, we're not accepting reality. So we're not accepting that that thought has arisen, that it has come up, and we suppress it back down, we repress it back down into the subconscious, and therefore it remains there unprocessed, unresolved, and the energy of it is stored in our system. And then next time that something looks, feels, or smells or tastes like it, meaning that, you know, there's associations in terms of our sensory stimuli and our thoughts and our emotions. When that happens, then those thoughts bubble up to the surface again, and there we go again. We'll distract away from them, or we'll suppress them, or we'll judge ourselves, we'll punish ourselves emotionally by abandoning ourselves for our thoughts instead of accepting them and loving them. So instead of rejecting them and being essentially against them, averse to them, when we embrace those thoughts, so we're not focusing on them, we're not saying focus on them, we're saying if you love those thoughts, you forgive those thoughts, you accept those thoughts. For instance, using one of the forgiveness techniques that we teach on our website or on our YouTube channel, the Forgive and Forget, or the Ho'oponopono mantra, when you actually open your heart when those thoughts come up and you accept them and you realize that your thoughts are not you, so you're not identified with them. And so you forgive them, you forgive yourself for having the thought, you love yourself, you love the thought, then what happens is that the energy is transmuted. So whatever fear was associated with that thought, or whatever fear that thought triggered in us, and the reactivity now gets transmuted, and now the thought just goes away by itself. So instead of coming back over and over again as a result of us suppressing it and repressing it or distracting away from it, when we integrate it in that way, when we transmute it and the energy of it, it goes back into the light of consciousness and pure love, and we realize that this thought is not us, that it's not relevant, it's not what we want, it's not helping us, it's not serving us, and then we choose something else. So you could say that there's infinite possibilities in the field of consciousness, and if those thoughts are not what you want to experience, then it's useful to love those thoughts, to forgive those thoughts, to accept those thoughts, and to let them be, merged back into the field of consciousness and not be identified with them, and not now have an aversion to them, which then pulls you, keeps you in a state of grasping, and keeps you actually attached to those thoughts, and keeps those same patterns of thought recycling over and over again through our own self-judgment and our fear of those thoughts. So that's a very, very, very useful process to apply to those thoughts. In addition to that, it's important to understand that the thoughts we resonate with, the thoughts that we pick up on, you can imagine, for instance, I was talking about the Wi-Fi network. If you're in a room and you have 10 different radio stations, well, if you don't tune into those radio stations anymore, you won't hear the sounds, the music, or the program, or the interviews that are being transmitted by those radio stations. So in a way, it's the same with those thoughts. If you're not tuned and resonating with those radio stations, those frequencies, those states of energy, then you're not going to continue to listen to those thoughts, to resonate with them, and to draw them to you, to attract them to you. And instead, you will be connected to the radio station that you choose and resonating with pure consciousness, God consciousness. And when you do that, then you will be resonant with that kind of information, and ultimately more consciousness than thoughts. It's my personal understanding and experience that when we are not, we don't have all of these different radio stations on, we're no longer resonating with those thoughts, and now we're not even thinking. We're really in a state of conscious awareness, downloading insights and information directly from the field, from pure consciousness. And so we're more present, more aware, and more conscious. So the thoughts that we have, they come from unresolved emotions. That's the radio station. If we have unresolved emotions, which would be our fears, our beliefs, our attachments and aversions, whatever those are, whether we're conscious of them or not, they generate the thoughts. Because if we have unresolved emotions around, a relationship or health or money or a career or any situation, any relationship in our life, then that's going to generate thoughts, because we'll be trying to figure out how to fix it, how to make it better. And whether that process is subconscious or not, we will become aware of those thoughts, and then we may not even register why we're having those thoughts. We may just think, oh, what's wrong with me? Why am I having those thoughts? When actually the thoughts are there to try to resolve an underlying painful trauma, some kind of dynamic that we're not comfortable with, some kind of unresolved emotion in our system that has not been fully processed out in the light of consciousness, and therefore we're not able to let it go. Once we've processed it optimally in the light of consciousness, now we can let it go. And once we've let it go, we don't have to create those thoughts, to generate those thoughts in a automatic like a program, in an automatic manner, because we don't have any problem to solve. So we're in a state where we're in a peace, we're conscious, we're aware, and so now we can operate from consciousness. We're really in the field, creative and aware of the information available in the field, and then it's up to us and our intention and what we're resonant with in that moment, rather than having to fix something and trying to control. By the way, our thoughts are an attempt to control ourselves out of those unresolved emotions and past trauma that we haven't resolved and that are dormant in our subconscious mind. So if we work on that, if we work on identifying what's leading to those thoughts, those negative thoughts, then what happens is that as we become aware of what's not resolved, and then we use a process to resolve it. So, whether you're using a process to clear your belief or to clear your fear, or to forgive yourself, to forgive, the fear, to forgive the belief, to forgive the situation, then what happens is that you're creating room, you're creating space for something new, for the energy to be liberated. And now you can focus consciously on the things that you want, instead of being constantly in a state of trying to resolve something, to fix something that has been in your subconscious. So once you no longer judge your thoughts, and you understand where they're coming from, and you resolve in your subconscious mind what's generating those thoughts, then all of that liberated energy is now available for you to focus, and for you to really start to basically invest that energy, that liberated creative energy, into something that you want to create, into something that is meaningful to you. And when that happens, then you have positive thoughts, or you have insights, or you're in the field of consciousness, creating, spontaneously, and those thoughts are no longer there. They don't bother you. Of course, I'm not saying that new thoughts cannot bubble up, because if you look at the process of how karma operates, how patterns operate, they come in layers. So once we've transcended certain negative thoughts that we had in the past, new negative thoughts that were stored underneath that layer that just got completely released and resolved, then they will bubble up, and they will start to kind of like come into our consciousness. And then we will again use the same process of introspection, of non-judgment, of acceptance, of love, and then of clearing. And when we do that, we're constantly transmuting all of that energy, because none of the energy that's stored, that's generating those thoughts, is correct. It's not true. It can't feel true, meaning that our unresolved trauma and emotions from the past, they feel true to us, whether it's in past lives or in this lifetime, in childhood, or different events in our lives where we've recorded pain and trauma. That said, ultimately, it's because we were operating from a state of consciousness that was not as conscious as we can or we would when we are in a higher chakra, a higher energy center, and where through the light of consciousness, the energy can be completely transmuted, and then we can realize that it's only spiritual energy. It's always been pure consciousness, pure light energy, God energy. And when that's the case, then it has no form. It's not a thought. It's not bad. It's not good. It's none of the things that we imagine when we have those quote-unquote negative thoughts. So that process is, it's good to know that, there's layers, and it's kind of coming up when it comes up, so that you don't get surprised when negative thoughts come up and you go into a pattern and you realize, oh, I'm in a pattern. Okay, where is this pattern coming from? What is it? And again, using the same process that I described, very diligently and comprehensively resolving the underlying energies that are in the system, that have been stored in the system, so that then ultimately all of the thoughts are resolved and they stop coming up. And then the next layer comes again and again and again. And when you embrace that and you see that as the process of life, then you can feel more at peace, more loving towards yourself, more accepting, and enjoy your life more, and enjoy all of the evolution that comes from this process, because there's so much growth that comes from it, and so much learning, and so much capacity to process more, to understand more, to be more conscious and more present. And when we're more conscious and more present, we're really living life much more fully than we were when we were burdened by our thoughts and worried about our thoughts and angry with our thoughts or rejecting of our thoughts or afraid of our thoughts. I hope this is helpful. And if you are looking for some help with any negative thoughts, patterns of thoughts, recurring thoughts, and it's not obvious to you where they're coming from, why they keep bubbling up, how to completely and comprehensively resolve them, then Dexter and I are really happy to help you with that. We work with people one-on-one, helping them understand the root cause for those thoughts, how to clear them, and how to positively focus their energy on the things that they want to achieve. So if that's something that you're looking for and looking for help with, then we're very happy to help you. I hope this video is helpful to you. And if you're interested in watching more videos and finding out more about us, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel with the little bell on the right side of the screen. And you can also visit our website. The address is going to be at the end of this video. We look forward to hearing from you and helping you in any way that we can. Bye.